Thanks, Judge. I think we announced that Kyle Danny was our next witness, but I'd like to retract that and call Kim Edwards, please.
All right, very good.
Thank you, Your Honor. Would you state your name, please, and spell it for the court recorder?
Yep, it's Kimberly Edwards, Kimberly Edwards.
What do you do for work?
What was that?
What do you do for work?
I'm a national registered paramedic at Frisbee Memorial Hospital.
I think our conversation can be relatively brief, but if you could indulge us in a summary of your training and experience and your history of work in this area.
Yep. So I started in the medical field in the military. I was in the military for 8 years, and I worked at a hospital for 8 years, for 4 years with the military, increasing my medical knowledge. When I got out of the military, I joined EMS, and I started as a EMT basic for 2 years and another 3 years as an advanced EMT, and since then I've been working as a paramedic.
And you say as a paramedic, is there a distinction between paramedic, EMT?
Yep, so as a basic EMT, you can give minimal drugs such as oxygen and aspirin. And as you advance your career, you can give more medications and do more interventions. As an advanced EMT, you can start an IV, give some saline if the patient needs it, if they're dehydrated or whatnot. And as a paramedic, we can do more medication, more life-saving medications and interventions, to include taking someone's airway if they were to lose their airway.
Did you respond to the area of 4341 Summer Street on April 4th last year?
I did.
And what was the nature of that call?
So that evening we got dispatched for multiple gunshot wounds. We arrived on scene to find a patient on the ground with multiple gunshot wounds.
Do you have an estimate of how long it took you to respond to the scene, to arrive at the scene from the time you took the call?
I believe it's about a mile, so it was probably only 2 minutes at most.
Very well. And did you, in fact, attend to a patient at the scene and transport that individual to Frisbee Memorial Hospital?
Yes, I did.
Can you just please summarize what you saw and what you did during that period of time?
Yep. So when we arrived on scene, PD was rendering medical care along with controlling the scene. So the officer that I took report from had already placed 2 chest seals to the patient. He said that there was multiple other wounds. He did not at the time have a count, due to it being dark out and the patient being fully clothed. At that time, there were many people there, a lot of people that were distraught and upset, and my partner and I felt that the scene wasn't very secure enough to be able to do a adequate enough assessment on this patient, so we deemed it very necessary to extricate the patient as quick as possible and get him in the back of the ambulance. So we did so. My partner and I, with the assistance of PD, lifted the patient onto the stretcher and put him in the back of the ambulance, where we were able to fully unclothe the patient and find that he had approximately 7 gunshot wounds to his body in multiple locations. At that time, the patient was able to speak to us in very gargled and incomplete sentences. He had blood coming from the airway. that we were suctioning throughout our transport to the hospital. We had the decision to either continue on to Portsmouth, where he would get definitive care, or take him to a closer hospital, so that way he could get emergent care and stabilize him. Due to the amount of wounds and the copious amount of blood that he had lost at that time, we did take him to Frisbee Hospital to receive emergent stabilizing care.
And so what was the kind of amount of time you spent from the scene to Frisbee, which is somewhat nearby?
Maybe 10 minutes.
Okay. And can I ask you then, and I'll follow up if you feel like additional detail is needed, but can you summarize, you said you saw 7 gunshot wounds. Does your reference to gunshot wounds include entry and exit wounds? Are you even making that determination?
I'm not making the determination of exit wounds and whatnot, because...
Can you briefly summarize for the jury the observations in terms of wounds and his medical condition that you observed during that some 10-minute period of time?
Yeah, so he had a collapsed lung due to a gunshot wound to the upper left-hand side. He had multiple gunshot wounds to his buttocks and down in his genital area. He had one going through his jaw and lodged into the other side of the jaw, which was making it difficult to get the blood out of his airway and making it difficult for us to, if we needed to, take his airway and breathe for him.
And any other treatment that you provided that you have?
Just wound care, stop the bleeding of some of the other wounds that we had found during the transport, suctioning and keeping his airway clear and open. We did attempt to do vital signs. We were only able to get his heart rate and his oxygen saturation due to the patient being just unable to sit still due to the amount of pain and anxiety that he was in at the time. So he was flailing around and we weren't able to get a blood pressure, which made it unsafe for us to continue on to Portsmouth at that time. We attempted an IV, but it got torn out on the way into the hospital. So that was all the care that we were able to render at the time.
You described your patient, Mr. Violette, as being anxious and having a hard time being still. Is he conscious through this process?
He was conscious and aware that he had been shot, other than saying that I got shot and I'm going to die and giving us his name. He was really not able to say much more than that.
And were you able to successfully transport and pass on this patient to the emergent care that you just referred to at Frisbee Memorial Hospital?
Yep, we did get him to Frisbee and transfer him to the nurses and physician.
Do you know a doctor named Dr. Freeze at Frisbee Memorial?
Yes.
Are you aware that he was on scene as well?
He was at the hospital.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, if I could just have... Thank you. Those were the questions I had. Attorney Sisti, I'm not sure you've met before, may have some follow-up questions if you like.
Thanks for coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.